This session explores proactive monitoring strategies and recovery protocols when healthcare AI agents go rogue. And we are going to have our speakers, Lauren Anderson and Varun Grover, on the line and have them introduce themselves and take over. Hi, Varun, I see you. And do we have Lauren?
I'm here too.
Okay, all
Good
right. So I'll let you
afternoon.
guys introduce yourselves, give your background, and jump right into the session. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you so much. And we're so excited to be here. I'll give myself a brief introduction, pass it over to Varun, and then we'll get into some slides. But yeah, I'm at Rubrik. Been here for about a year, but been working on industry marketing and different capacities for probably about 12 years now. So specifically at Rubrik, I work in the healthcare space. And thinking about how can we, think about the problems that healthcare leaders like you care about and make sure that our product reflects that. So that's me, and I'll pass it over to you, Varun.
Thank you, Lauren. Hi, everyone. Great to meet you all. I lead product marketing for our SaaS and AI businesses here at Rubrik. I've been here close to 18 months, and in my time here, I've been fully focused on accelerating the AI transformation for our customers and making it easy to adopt agents in production at scale. Very excited to dive into the conversation.
All right, so let's do that. Um, Everyone can see my screen, I assume. All right, so here we are with our session. We did our introduction. I'll just start by saying, hey, AI agents, have you heard of them? This little new thing that's happening in the world. I'm pretty sure that you cannot escape AI agents or AI. I know this is probably embedded into all the conversations you're having today to some degree. If you've been to any tech conferences, I was just at reInvent. And I think every single booth, no matter who they were, had AI mentioned to some extent. And agents are really the next iteration of that. The next place we're going with AI is how can we build these workers that can make decisions for us and do them autonomously and help improve our works and our clinical workflows and our onboarding and patient onboarding and all these great things that we want to do from a healthcare perspective. And here we are in this era. And when we think about healthcare specifically, there's huge growth here, which we're really in a place where healthcare, maybe tends to be a little bit more behind on adopting some technologies. We're actually leading the pack with almost 10 times growth over the past 2 years with AI domain specific tools and really just huge adoption just for all the reasons you're aware of. So clinical care burnout, like all these things that we're trying to solve to make our patient experience and our staff's lives better. So what we did at Rubrik is we put together a survey. So we kind of wanted to understand the state of things today. So where are organizations in terms of their adoption of AI agents? And really, what type of challenges are they facing when they're going through the process of adopting them? So that's what we did. We put together a survey to about 180 companies. You'll see that while the survey was not exclusive to healthcare, healthcare life sciences was the largest percentage that we pulled from for these answers. So just keep that in mind as I'm kind of walking through them. But ultimately, what we came away from is this is a big one for me. 93% of these companies were either actively building or planning to build AI agents. Only 5% were not. And I'm sure those 5% might change their mind over the next few years because this is coming, like I said, and like you are all very aware of. So what I want to do is just kind of go through some of those results and help you frame them to understand again, like where are organizations when it comes to AI agents? And when we really look at the data, the responses that we got back, we were able to kind of align all of the organizations into these four core buckets. So, they're either just getting started with experimentation, or, at the very end of the scale, we have autonomous AI where they have fully autonomous workflows, these ecosystems of agents taking action. And we look at how that breakdown looks. Most organizations are here in experimentation. So they're starting with a few POCs. We have 11% that haven't started. We're starting to kind of move up the scale, but most folks are in this experimentation bucket. And so I'll kind of go through the next slides of, all right, what do we mean by these stages? What does that actually look like in terms of adoption? And so this is what it looks like. And so experimentation, you can think, okay, you have these small teams, a couple POCs, you're not really giving agents access to your critical data. So maybe, all right, you don't want them to give write access to EHRs or other systems that are really important. And when you think of the challenges that is at this stage, it's really lack of expertise. Getting that expertise to build these agents and be able to do it well, it can be a huge challenge, especially with those deep technical backgrounds that are required a lot of times to do it efficiently and effectively. And then, there's typically, all right, we just have a few, so you don't really have that governance strategy built in place yet. When we think about success, this is, just how are those couple of POCs going? What does that look like? And so some quotes we hear, hey, we're just trying to figure it out. We got some ideas, we're just kind of working through them. And then, hey, what guardrails should I put in place from a security perspective to make sure that I'm doing it in a way that doesn't harm my patients? So one example of this for you guys might be like a healthcare FAQ responder. So think about like a chat bot. It just has read access to maybe SharePoint or some other tools. It could handle some basic pre-visit questions from your patients. So maybe it's like sending out questionnaires or maps of where to go for your appointment. And then it goes to a human who validates it with like a human in the loop to make sure that the answers are accurate. So something that's very basic, doesn't have a lot of impact to your core systems. Nothing goes crazy if it's wrong. But it's just, again, one of those ways to automate some of those great functions and give more value to your patients. And this next stage, we think about formalizing our strategy. Okay, you've got a few of those POCs out the door. You've made a couple agents. You're ready to go on to that next stage. Well, then you have to think about the structure of how are you going to build this? I recently heard a quote that for healthcare leaders, AI has gone from a strategic risk decision of should we do it to an execution risk decision of how do we do it well? And this is what this stage kind of gets into of, all right, so we're building it out. How can we build out our structures, our processes? Do we have an AI governance committee? We're starting to give them a little more, maybe some right access to, go a little bit further in their autonomy and what they're able to do. And we have here, when you're involving these approval processes, I think we talked about like executive buy-in and other conversations, like getting through that when you're starting to build out that governance can mean longer processes, bottlenecks. So you don't get through the processes as quickly as you want because you have these layers of approval. And then how do you evaluate performance? How do you determine risk? How do you determine, which of these you should elevate in terms of this is what we should push to prod first versus others? So measuring, what is most important for you. And then visibility. So what do they have access to? I mean, when you go from just a few to dozens, you have all these different tools and things that they can touch. So how are you really making sure that you truly understand what's going on? And then, this might take like weeks to measure value. And this is where you might look into getting your funding secured, like thinking about, all right, so how are we going to continue to scale this out? And then you see things like, okay, we have our AI governance committee, we have IT security. You start to bring in all these different groups that are involved in the process of making sure that you're building effective and secure AI agents. But then sometimes, again, you have this question, all right, we're starting to do more. While you're building more, you're getting more value out of what you're doing. You're improving patient outcomes, you're improving clinical workflows, but you also have the balance of this risk. Like, okay, how are we making sure we're doing this? Like, I feel like I have a black box. I want to make sure I'm doing this in the right way. So something an agent in this, think about like this stage might be like a care gap identification. So maybe something that might pull data from your EHR, like Epic or others, You might flag patients for screenings, for chronic disease management, rank your patients, and then it might take some kind of action, like maybe message them or message care teams or do some sort of automatic scheduling. So maybe you're starting to give access to limited PHI. It's a little more risky, but the value that you get is also greater as well. This next stage is proliferation. So this is where, all right, we've gone through, we're starting to get more maturity and in terms of our governance. We have standards that we've built in place. We have some basic observability. We have kind of a general understanding of what agents we have, what they're doing. But then you have kind of the next stage, which is external threats. When you have all these agents, we just had a conversation about, for example, these agents have identities that they're associated with. How are you managing that process? Do you have visibility into that? Do you have control over if something goes wrong? Can you kind of take that action back and make sure that it doesn't have a broader impact? Because something about agents is they're autonomous. So what they can do in 1 second, it would take 20 humans to do in a month. So they can do things very, very quickly at great speed. And so therefore, you really have to have these controls in place to be able to remediate their actions if something goes wrong. And then, measuring success, it's all about remediation, guardrails, all those security aspects. So this was a recent quote that I heard where someone thought they were actually in the experimentation phase, but it turns out they're in the proliferation phase because they they thought they had 15 agents, but it turns out they had hundreds. So this is something else. You might be a little bit further along in terms of agent production than you realize just because of like shadow IT and all these things that are happening. So this is a issue that's really rising in urgency for healthcare executives. Example here might be like sepsis prediction and alerting agent. So in this case, it could be, taking that data, continuously monitoring it, figuring out a way to notify, your care teams that, hey, you need to take action. And so in this case, you have both read and write access, you have access to PHI, you have, again, much more risk, much more value is ultimately what we're going with the trade-off is here, and the ability to act autonomously, where we're balancing autonomy and security. And so this is the last stage. None of the people we surveyed are at this stage, but this is where you have complete autonomous ecosystems. This is kind of the end state of where you can envision like a future AI agent space going, where you're really just trying to improve the machine over time. It's a fully functioning machine on its own with multiple agents doing multiple things with multiple tools, multiple processes that are automated. And then that becomes more like a business process that you're thinking of optimizing. So something here might be like an end-to-end revenue cycle agent, end-to-end revenue cycle agent ecosystem. Woof. So you have like clinical documentation coding agent, claim generation agent, submission agent, denial prediction agent. So all these agents that are kind of working hand in hand, performing these autonomous actions to like optimize this process. So ultimately what we learned is that, again, healthcare is a little bit further along than we thought, and you might be too. That these builder tools are becoming widely adopted. So Copilot, Bedrock agents, like all these tools where you can build agents are starting to get more adoption. But the biggest thing is this lack of visibility. When you're moving up the scale, when you're moving up the process of building more agents, again, you get that greater impact, but you have that greater risk that you have to balance, and you have to understand, am I secure? Do I have visibility? Do I have observability? And ultimately, getting to that whole place of security is a team effort. So you have your CISOs, your security leaders that want comprehensive visibility, they want to limit access, manage those identities. You have CIOs that want reversibility. So if something bad happens, how do we roll it back quickly? And then you have like on your CTOs, those teams want to make sure, hey, how are we making sure we're getting the best technology out into our care teams to improve the patient experience. And so all these things are happening, but what happens when something goes wrong? So I have my colleague Varun Grover who's going to speak to that.
Thank you, Lauren. Lauren just walked through how different customers are at different stages in their agent maturity curve. And what we're seeing is this AI agent challenge is not fundamentally different from some of the things that we have been working to address here at Rubrik since our very founding. So, Lauren, if you could go to the next slide. Rubrik has been focused on resilience from the get-go for our customers, whether that was with core backup and recovery in the face of natural disasters, to being able to help our customers recover from cyber attacks with unified cyber resilience. Now, our customers face a new disaster, and that is AI disasters. And the way to think about this is we've had different transformations with the automation transformation, the digital transformation. The AI transformation brings 10x opportunity, but it also brings 100x risk because AI agents act autonomously and at scale and at speed within your environment. So they potentially have the ability to do 10x the damage in a tenth of the time. And so we need to be able to think about them very, very differently. If you go to the next slide, Lauren. What we have seen is that agents are deceptively easy to build. You might have seen multiple different agent builders in the market, whether it's Copilot Studio or Bedrock or Google's different solutions with Vertex AI and Gemini Enterprise. There's no shortage of agent builders that can help you have a POC up and running inside of a week, sometimes in days, sometimes in hours. But what we have noticed is going into production is extremely difficult because you need to go through series of approvals and partner with your legal teams, your infosec teams, and work with the AI governance committee to make sure that data and sensitive data in particular is well managed as agents start to take autonomous action. So the moment AI moves from advisory to autonomy, that's when you need to be thinking about this problem very differently. And it's less about building agents and it's more about operating agents to be able to get the full ROI. And so as we dive deeper, this is where I would like to focus. Lauren, if we can go to the next slide. What we hear consistently from our customers over and over is, if you could build it out, we basically hear the same questions over and over again. What agents does your IT team, does your security team, what agents do they have access to? What agents have been built in the entire organization? What data do those agents have access to, and can they be governed? And then lastly, and this is where Rubrik plays a really important role, is can agent mistakes be safely undone? Because what we've noticed is agents are probabilistic in nature, so they will make mistakes, and you need a mechanism to be able to undo them. So if we go to the next slide, we've noticed that this is not a theoretical challenge. Agents are making mistakes in live environments. So what you see here is a screenshot of an AI agent that deleted an entire production database during an actual code freeze. And so agents are making mistakes, and those mistakes have real consequences. Now, if we go to the next one, please. These are not hallucinations, these are executed actions. So what that means is when you talk to an LLM and it hallucinates, it essentially gives you a wrong answer. But that in and of itself is not catastrophic. But an agent is taking actions. And so a mistake with an agent leads to catastrophic consequences because it could delete data, it could modify sensitive data, and that is a whole different class of risk. So what if we could provide IT and security teams the peace of mind to unblock AI developers building agents? Most IT and security teams don't want to be in the way of progress. They want to accelerate agentic adoption, but they want to do it securely. And so what if we could proactively detect destructive actions, flag risky agents, and protect sensitive data? And What if we could set up the right guardrails and revoke over-permissioned non-human identities and recover lost data? That's our focus with the new platform that we built called Rubrik Agent Cloud. And so the Rubrik Agent Cloud is an agent operations platform for the enterprise that does three things. It helps you monitor agent actions, giving you full visibility into your agents with granular app and identity understanding. It helps you govern agent behavior by defining and enforcing custom policies and blocking risky tools in real time. And then most importantly, it helps you rewind agent mistakes. So if you have an agent that deletes a bunch of data, you can just click the rewind button and go back to the point in time and recover from the backups that we have. And so to conclude, I will say that when you think about agentic governance, you need to be thinking about it very differently than just an extension of your identity and access solutions, because agents act with autonomy, they act at scale. And so you need a solution that can monitor, govern, and rewind at scale. And so if this is something that's of interest to you as you are onboarding agents or building agents and you're thinking about how you can get ROI in production, feel free to reach out to us. We'd be happy to set you up with early access.